Andrea notices that her daughter Shawna has been having some behavior changes and has been acting a lot differently at school and at home. She suspects that her daughter may be struggling with drugs or alcohol, so she decides to look through her room. She goes to Shawna's room and decides to start at the nightstand. She picks up the alarm clock on Shawna's nightstand and gives a little shake, and she hears something where the batteries should be. She opens up the battery pack and finds drugs in the spot where the batteries should be. Deciding to continue looking, she goes back to the nightstand and finds a Coca-Cola can. That also looks weird, so she picks it up and gives it a shake and sees that the top can screw off. It's actually a stash can. These kinds of cans can be bought all over the internet and look very real, but are hiding spots. Returning her attention to the nightstand, she spots a video game console. Just like the alarm clock, there was a baggie where the game should go, making it another hiding spot of Shawna's. There's also a small watch on the top of the nightstand. It looks normal, but looking at it closer, she sees that the top of the watch can actually screw off. The watch works as a normal watch, but it also is a grinder for grinding up marijuana before smoking it. Andrea has found so many items, but she is going to continue looking. She opens the top drawer of the nightstand. There's nothing in that one. So sorry. I can't see what's in there. It's animation. Oh, she has found a mini alcohol bottle in the top drawer of the nightstand. There is also an oddly shaped deodorant container in the nightstand that's shaking around a lot. Andrea is able to remove the deodorant to find that drugs have been hidden underneath the deodorant tube, and the deodorant has been placed on top. She also finds a hairbrush. She's never seen Shawna use this hairbrush before, so she takes a closer look and finds that the bottom of it screws off to reveal a stash spot inside. She also finds a bottle of cough syrup in her daughter's nightstand. She's very concerned because she knows that cough syrup can be used to get a drunk or high feeling. She's also found some vitamin C vitamins in the drawer of the nightstand and found that underneath the vitamins are more drugs. There's also a small makeup bag that has some makeup in it, but underneath the makeup is some strangely shaped candy that smells weird. She's also found some feminine hygiene products that she knows belong to her daughter, but one of them is out of the packaging, so she decides to take a closer look. The cotton part inside comes out, and there was actually stuff shoved inside the hygiene product. There was also a lot of perfume and Febreze inside the drawer. All right, Andrea has decided to move on to the second drawer of the nightstand. This drawer also has a lot of stuff in it. Some of Shawna's school supplies is in there. So Andrea opened up the notebook, trying to see if she could find anything, and she found drugs taped to the back of the notebook pad. She looked inside the pack of crayons and also found drugs inside this seemingly innocent school supplies. Inside the crayons was also a pack of rolling papers. There was a box of open Band-Aids, and most of the Band-Aids were removed to reveal other hidden items inside. There was also a small container, and Andrea wasn't sure what it was, so she opened it up and discovered it was another grinder used to grind up marijuana so it could be smoked. Andrea struggled to get it shut. Andrea found another makeup bag. And inside, underneath some Band-Aids and other hygiene supplies, she found some Q-tips. The cotton parts of the Q-tips can be taken off and used to filter heroin. And she also found some other drugs in the bag. Another seemingly innocent item, a box of chalk. Andrea opened it up and she found stuffed underneath the chalk was another bag of drugs. As well as a lighter. Andrea starts looking through the last drawer in the nightstand, concerned about what else she may find. There are several bottles of lotion and tanning oil in the bottom drawer of the nightstand, but she finds that they're very liquidy. She opens one up and smells it, and discovers that it's actually vodka inside of all of the bottles. Shawna also has a lot of different markers, pens, and pencils in this drawer of the nightstand. One of the highlighters and a couple of the pens have been hollowed out, the ink has been taken out, and different items have been stuffed inside the pen and highlighters. There's also a glue stick in which the glue has been removed and stuff has been put inside the tube. She then picks up an old iPhone case box. And inside, she thought it might have been an old cell phone, but upon closer examination, it's actually a scale. These kinds of mini handheld scales can be used for measuring out quantities of drugs, indicating that Shawna might be selling. Shocked by what she has discovered in the nightstand, she moves on to Shawna's bed. She picks up Shawna's favorite stuffed animal and looks at it. She flips it over and sees that there's something weird with one of the legs. Part of the seam has been ripped and drugs have been put inside the stuffed animal. She then looks at the TV remote, thinking everything was fine, but then she gave it a shake and heard some rattling, so she decided to look in the battery pack. Similar to the alarm clock, stuff was hidden where the batteries should be. She then moved on to the CD case. She knows that Shawna loves to listen to music, and she has a lot of CDs laying around, so she decided to open that one up, and underneath the disc, she found hidden items. Any CD cases or old DVD cases can have this hiding spot. She looked under the pillow and inside the pillow and felt something strange. So she looked in the pillowcase and found a mini alcohol bottle. Several mini alcohol bottles. She also found needles hidden inside one of the pillowcases. By her feet, she noticed some candy half hidden under Shawna's bed. She picked them up. Some of it was normal candy still in the package, but others was some weird candy that was just in a Ziploc bag that smelled strange when she gave it a sniff. She suspects these are edibles. She also found even more Febreze to add to the many bottles of perfume that were in Shawna's nightstand. This suspects that Shawna may be trying to hide certain smells. Andrea also found a vape hidden under the bed. She looks at Shawna's shoes just in the middle of the room and decides that she should probably search them. Stuffed in the toe of one of the shoes are more drugs. She also notices that the sole of the other shoe has been ripped up. So she lifts that and she finds stuff hidden underneath the sole of the shoe. Andrea then picks up one of Shawna's sweatshirts. This is Shawna's favorite sweatshirt, and Andrea could never figure out why. Looking closer, she discovers that the hood strings on the sweatshirt are actually part of a vape. Shawna can attach her vape to the inside of the sweatshirt and then vape with the hoods of her hoodie. There's also a bottle opener attached to the pocket and a hidden hiding spot. Andrea checks out some of Shawna's other clothes and finds that on the tag on some of her t-shirts, there are materials taped to the tag. These are more drugs. Looking through another jacket that she found on the ground, she checks the pockets and finds something hidden in there. It's another empty vape that Shawna has been using. Unsure where else to look, she flips over the carpet on the ground to find things hidden underneath the space rug, taped to the tag of the rug. She moves on to Shawna's bookshelf and pulls out some books that look like they've never been touched. Andrea is shocked to find that the pages of the book have been hollowed out and that there are hidden items inside where the pages should be. There is a second book that also has the pages hollowed out just a little bit to fit a vape. She finds a DVD case that has an e-cigarette hidden inside of it, as well as drugs underneath the CD. Andrea looks at some artwork that Shawna has framed on her desk and decides to check behind the glass. She takes the back off the frame and finds that stuff has been hidden in the back of the frame. She looks at Shawna's box of tissues, and the box is strangely heavy. Looking inside, she finds a pipe. Shawna's pencil cup also has more pens and highlighters where the insides have been hollowed out and drugs have been put where the ink should be. At Andrea's feet, she spots a hat. This is strange because she knows Shawna does not like to wear hats, so she looks at it closer and sees a marijuana leaf on the front and that there's Velcro underneath the hat. It's a stash hat that Shawna must have bought online, used for hiding drugs. This and other clothing items just like that can be found very easily online at a variety of places. Lastly, Andrea walks toward Shawna's trash can. Inside, she finds an old cup with some purple liquid in it, which she may have been using to drink some of her cough syrup or her purple drink. She also finds what we call a sploof. So a sploof is an old toilet paper roll with dryer sheets stuffed inside of it. When a person is smoking marijuana, they can exhale into the sploof, and it hides all smells. There's also a piece of tin foil in the bottom of the trash can, as well as the tags for the vaping sweatshirt that Andrea found earlier. Finally, Andrea looks through Shawna's gym bag, hoping she doesn't find anything else. She finds another vape hidden in the pocket of the gym bag. As well as some more vape juice. And an even larger vape. Andrea is very shocked by all the things that she has uncovered in Shawna's room. She knows that she will have to talk to Shawna in a calm manner if she is going to get her daughter help. All right, hello, and thank you so much for coming. We have an excellent turnout tonight. So my name is Lydia, and this is Mary, and we are from CASA-Trinity, and we are going to show you our Shawna Has a Secret presentation today. So maybe you've heard of CASA-Trinity, but in case you haven't, we do a whole bunch of stuff all throughout New York State, but in Livingston County, Mary and I do a lot of community awareness programs around substance use awareness and mental health, but probably our biggest thing we do is we try to partner up with the schools and deliver programming to students around drug and alcohol education, but also some social emotional learning, conflict resolution, anger management, things like that. So today we're going to take you through Shawna Has a Secret. We're going to show you some data from Livingston County, from a survey that a bunch of the students in the district have taken. We're going to show you some of the warning signs that your child may be struggling with substance use. We're going to do a review of Shawna's room, and then we're going to try to guide you through how to have that conversation with your child, because it is a very difficult time. So we're going to try to give you some tips on that. Are we excited? All right.
Woo woo!
Oh, we already did Jeopardy.
There's a clicker.
There's a clicker. All right, so this is some data from our Clyde survey that we do every couple of years. So the majority of the schools throughout Livingston County, their students in 6th grade, 8th grade, 10th, and 12th grades take this anonymous survey, just so we can really get some data on current trends going on in the county. And from this, we can see that for our kids in Livingston County, cigarettes and prescription drugs are not typically being used, but things like alcohol and marijuana have much higher rates of use. Especially alcohol and marijuana for 12th graders, we can see how those numbers are a lot higher than the other population. So that shows us that that's something that we need to address. Oh my God, this is so cool. And then this is our data on the perception of harm for their substance use. So for this graph, the higher the better. This tells us what substances the kids view as dangerous and harmful to their bodies. So we can see that the cigarette numbers, for example, are very high. So it shows that they really know that cigarettes are dangerous, and same with prescription drugs. But things like alcohol and the marijuana numbers especially, their perception of harm for marijuana is pretty low. So that means that there's a pretty significant number of kids in Livingston County who don't view that as harmful. So that tells us that that's something that we really need to address. All right, and then lastly, I just wanted to throw this slide in there, because I think in our work of prevention, one thing that we hear the most is, oh, it doesn't matter if I smoke marijuana, like my uncle or my dad used to do it, my older brother does it, it's no big deal if I do it. But we really try to educate the kids and help them understand that marijuana has changed so much over the past couple of years, and especially over the past couple of decades. So in 1995, there was only 3.96% of THC found in marijuana, which is that chemical that gets people high, whereas now, in 2023, in 2021, the data was 15.34%. So that is a huge jump. All right, and then Mary's gonna go over some of the warning signs that we can look for that may suggest that your child is using.
Okay, so, and these kind of, some of these kind of pair up with mental health as well, that your child might be struggling with some mental health issues. Change in friends, change in hygiene, change in grades, loss of interest in normal activities, change in appetite or sleep. Odd odors is different than the mental health one. Change in work ethic and unverifiable excuses. What I want to point out to you, and you probably are looking at this and knowing, is that all of those also happen in the teen years. So it gets really tricky to kind of sort out, are they having a tough time or are they just being a kid, right? So I think that's very difficult for parents, and in our panic and in our denial, it can be easy to say, oh, they're just being a teenager, because it's scary. I know with some, I have 5 grown children, they all made it, and for some of them, they were exhibiting those signs, and I missed them. And here I was, counselor, caseworker, case manager, and I missed them, because it was my kids, and my heart was in the way, and I was scared, and I didn't want to lose them. So I'm just gonna not look at that, okay, right? So that's where I think it gets very tricky for parents, is sorting that out. And so I guess what my message to you tonight, if I have one, is keeping your mind broad, keeping your mind very open. Doesn't mean they're using drugs, doesn't mean they're having a mental health crisis, but I'm just gonna wonder, what if? I'm just gonna keep my mind really open. Okay, all right. Was there anything you wanted to add though?
You did excellent.
Yeah.
That was great.
Okay. All right, so when we talk about searching the room, all right, we all know that privacy is very important to all of us. And it's like maybe double, triple, fourfold times to teenagers. Privacy is so important. So the only time in my opinion, the only time we want to break that privacy is if it's a really important thing. I think searching is the last resort. I don't think it's a medium resort. I think it's the last resort when you're kind of like, no, there's a problem. I know there's a problem. And again, please chime in if you feel differently, because I think that's something that as parents you kind of gotta sort that out yourself. And I want to be clear that we're not searching to be right, and we're not searching to catch them. And I have to tell you, there were times in my parenting that I had that mindset of like, oh, you're not going to outsmart me, young lady. It's not the right place to come from. I came from it sometimes, but it's not the right place. We always want to be, anything that we do with our children needs to come from a place of love and concern, not pride. And I was very prideful. So the times that you might search, that you might choose to search, is you've noticed some of the signs that we just talked about. You've been given information from a trusted source. And I think that's such an important one, because I remember the school calling me on one of my children and saying, Mary, I'm just really not sure if she's not into something. And I'm not saying that I shut that down, but did I explore it fully? Mm-mm. And I think it can be, well, they're just targeting my child. I didn't feel that way, but I think we can easily feel that way. They're just saying mean things about my kids. They just don't like that one, right? So you've been given information from a trusted source. It might be a relative. My mother, you don't care about this, but that's okay. My mother and my aunt went to another aunt and said, we know that your child is buying pot for your other child. And my aunt shut that down just as fast as she could, right? What agenda did they have? What could they have gotten from that? Same with the school. What could they be getting from calling me, right? So a trusted source. I know, I'm not sure partner-wise who's with, like what your situation is, but I know my husband tried to tell me that it wasn't going okay. And I did not want to hear it at all. And I should have listened. So I would just say, stay open as you can. Your gut tells you something is very wrong. I'm sure somewhere down deep I knew, right? I think we're very in tune with our children. So it's, again, keeping that open mindset. And stories do not add up. Man, I was easily fooled. Wow. And I am on a regular basis, but with my children, man, was I easily fooled. So, paying attention, wow, why is there aluminum foil in the garbage can? We haven't had anything with aluminum. Why?
Why do they have an empty container of cough syrup? They haven't been sick.
Right.
Yeah.
Like really keeping you're not just glazing over it. It's so much easier to glaze over it, but it's so not good. Okay.
All right, perfect. So now that we've established maybe the reasons you may search, we're just going to review some of the things that we found in Shawna's room. I know you guys already did this. You guys found every single item. That's never happened. Every item.
You did?
I was very impressed.
Nice. Good job.
But I know not everyone had a chance to fully see the things in Shawna's room, so we're just going to review that again. All right. So in the middle, we have our nightstand, and in the pictures around are all the things that are on the nightstand. So right here, we have our battery packs. So anything that has batteries, those batteries can be removed and stuff can be hidden inside. So in Shawna's room, we had a regular clock, an alarm clock, and a remote control for a TV. There's also like seemingly innocent items like a tissue box. They should be pretty light, so if it's picked up and it seems heavy, there could be stuff hidden in it. The Coca-Cola can in the top right corner. So it looks like a regular Coca-Cola can, but it has a hidden stash compartment inside. And there's so many of those items that can be purchased online, even just from Amazon, and shipped right to your house. And for so many different kinds of drinks. You can buy water bottles that have like actual water in them that you can fully drink out of that are stash spots. It's kind of crazy. And then in the bottom, we have what looks like a roll of quarters, but it's actually unscrewed to reveal a grinder. And that's what people use to grind up marijuana before they smoke it. I love this clicker. We need to get one. Some more things, the picture frame, the backs can be removed and stuff can be hidden in the back of those. And then also books. Books, the pages can be hollowed out and a lot of stuff can be hidden in those. Next, some of the stuff that was inside Shawna's nightstand. There was a CD case. I know kids nowadays don't use CDs or like DVDs, but I feel like they still have them in their room even though they don't use them. So
Even DVDs.
DVDs, yeah. Stuff can be hidden under the discs or even just like in the box, right? More innocent items like sidewalk chalk, right? Stuff can be hidden underneath the chalk. In the top right, we have what looks like a normal watch. It has a battery, it functions like a regular watch, but the face of the watch can be popped off, and that's another grinder used for grinding marijuana. And then in the bottom right, I don't know about you guys, I save all of my old iPhone boxes. I don't know why.
Absolutely.
But you have all yours too?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, it's a good quality box. Maybe I'll put something in here one day.
Yeah.
Apparently it's a common thing.
Right, there's like multiple of them. I don't know why.
So that could be an item, and then inside the box in Shawna's room, it kind of looks like an old cell phone, but it's actually a mini scale. So if mini scales are found in the bedroom, it could mean like, they could be like measuring out drugs to deal them to other people. All right, so this is kind of our school supplies slide. I feel like it's hard to think that someone would hide things in their school supplies, but it does happen.
Or sidewalk chalk.
Sidewalk chalk, I know, it's so sad. So the Crayola box, there were some rolling papers in there used to roll up marijuana. The glue stick, the glue was removed, and drugs were in there. Things like pens or markers or highlighters, for all of those, you can unscrew the top or the bottom. You can take out the ink and you can hide stuff inside. Even like the ends of markers and like the big highlighters, you have to use pliers to get the back off, but if people want to hide things, they will find a way. So you can take the backs off, take the ink part out, and a lot of stuff can be hidden in there. And even on like the backs of notebooks, things can be taped or hidden there. All right, next, this is like our hygiene supplies slide. So up first, the tampons. I think this is a big one. I think most parents would not think to check like their feminine hygiene products.
Well, they'd be creeped out.
Especially like fathers, they would probably avoid that at all costs. But in Shawna's room, she did have one that was out of the package, and there was something where the cotton should be. We also have the deodorant stick. So once like half the deodorant is used up, you can pull out the other half, hide stuff in the bottom because there's a lot of space down there, and you can put the deodorant right back on and screw it again, put the top on. That's a big hiding spot. The hairbrush. Some hairbrushes you can buy and they'll unscrew, or you can take off the bristles and that can be a hiding spot. But there's also like stash hairbrushes you can buy online that come with that hiding spot in them. Oh, and then the Febreze and the perfume. This one's kind of a difficult one because I feel like a lot of teenagers like wear like perfume or cologne, but if you notice that they're spraying perfume or Febreze a lot, it could be indicating that they're trying to cover up other smells. Okay, you guys looked through Shawna's shoes and you saw that there was stuff hidden like in the toe part of the shoe and also underneath the soles. And things can also be taped to like the tongue of the shoe on the inside. The poor stuffed animal, that's the saddest one. Any seam of like a stuffed animal could be like just ripped a little bit, you can barely even tell, and stuff can be hidden in there. We've seen it like in Shawna's room, we had it in the armpit. I've also seen it in the tails of stuffed animals. And then you guys looked through Shawna's garbage can a little bit, and you found like some tinfoil and the ends, the cottony parts of some Q-tips. So that can be used for heroin. And then in the garbage can, you also found what we call a sploof. So that is an empty toilet paper roll and some fabric softener sheets. So people can stuff the fabric softener sheets inside the toilet paper roll, and it kind of acts as a filter. So when they smoke marijuana, they can exhale into that filter and it completely covers up the smell. All right, and this is our clothing slide. So just like normal stash places, there's a lot of clothing that you can buy online, unfortunately, that have stash places hidden inside of them. So this sweatshirt, you guys found the stash spot hidden in the pocket. It has a bottle opener on it, but also the entire sweatshirt can be used to vape. The strings on the hood, those connect to a vape that you can like tape to the inside of the sweatshirt, and you know, teenagers are always chewing on the strings of their hoodie, but they can actually be vaping. That's the hiding, or the pocket. Things can be taped to tags, and that's really hard to notice because they're like similar colors. So t-shirts or even like rugs, anything with a tag. And then there's also stash hats. So I feel like those were really hard to spot in the room. It was Velcro hidden under the rim of the hat, but those can also be purchased online. All right, and then these are some larger items that, you know, unfortunately we couldn't bring to Shawna's room. Sadly, we couldn't bring an entire ceiling fan. I asked Andrea, she said it wasn't in the budget. Kind of rude. So things could be taped to like the tops of the ceiling fan blades. Outlet covers, I feel like those are really easy to unscrew. Stuff can be hidden right inside and then screwed back on. Air vents are another one. It's a pretty big hiding spot. They just pop right off and then can be put easily back on. If their bedroom has these ceiling tiles, that could be a big spot. Oh, this one is sad too. Plants. I am such a plant mom. But realistically, like, things can be hidden in baggies and hidden right under the soil, and you can't tell at all. And then behind movie posters, or any posters that are hanging on the wall, thin things can be taped behind those. So obviously there's like a million hiding spots that there could be in a bedroom, but we just wanted to show you some of the common ones that we have seen. So before we get into the how to have the talk with your child, we're gonna throw a couple more things your way. So I wanted to have a slide about edibles, because edibles are very popular and there's so many places that you can buy them. There are a bunch of websites online where you can buy them and have them shipped to your door. There are pages on TikTok and Instagram that are shops where all they do is like show them making their products and advertising them, and you can buy them right off of TikTok or right off of Instagram. They are not hidden at all. And then there's also, for like these brand ones, they copy the packaging of the brands and they make it very similar. So for example, like Pop-Tarts versus Pot-Tarts. So these are like the cannabis-infused Pop-Tarts. Those are the regular. The packaging is very similar. These are marijuana-infused Skittles. You can't really tell, but there's like tiny marijuana leaves on the packaging. It's very similar. So this is something that we also wanted to make aware to you guys. Edibles are very potent. They can be dangerous. And I think a lot of kids just aren't really educated on them. They seem to think that when you take an edible, it'll come into effect right away, because that's kind of what happens with smoking. But edibles can take much longer, like a couple hours before they kick in. So a teenager might take an edible, wait 30 minutes and be like, oh my gosh, nothing happened. So they'll take another, and then they'll have consumed way too much than their body can handle. And that can lead to what the kids are now calling greening out, which is where they consume too much THC than their body can handle, and they get super sick. They could throw up, and they could have almost hallucinations with like the way that they view time. Time can be slowed down or speed it up. Sorry, I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys. And then I wanted to go over types of vapes, because like you guys saw in Shawna's room, there's like every single one you found looked different, right? So this is kind of the breakdown of what the different evolutions look like. So there's like little skinny ones that look just like regular cigarettes. There's these ones that look more like flash drives. There's like pens, or like these ones. These can also be like dab pens. So these ones are used for smoking marijuana, not nicotine. And those ones are a lot more powerful. And there's also much larger ones that are like box or vape mods. So I know it's a lot, but since they all look so completely different, it's hard to tell like what little items you might find around the room are actually parts of different e-cigarettes. All right, and then lastly, and then I'll be quiet and I'll let Mary do her thing.
You're doing great.
We did a little slide on emojis, because sometimes we've found teenagers talk in code when they're talking about drugs, and there's different emojis that can be used when referring about different drugs. So the only thing I disagree with on this is it says the universal sign for drugs is the maple leaf. I would say it's more likely any kind of green leaf emoji. And any kind of green leaf emoji or like smoke emoji is like universal for marijuana. Any pill emoji, the P for Percocets. For drug dealer, I would say it's always like the plug emoji, because a drug dealer hooks you up with drugs, so it's like a plug.
Oh my God.
I know. For things like methamphetamines or cocaine, the diamond or the snowflake are probably the most powerful, or like most commonly used. And I do have like a copy of this handout over here on the table in case you need a better picture. The X for ecstasy, mushrooms is just a mushroom. And then, yeah, like I said, any green leaf emoji. Like, yes, it could be a regular emoji, but if the context is really weird, you know, it could be referring to something else. All right, so now I'll be quiet. I feel like I've been rambling for a while, and I will let Mary go through how to have that talk with your child.
So I think that, I'm sure we've all found something, I'm not saying this stuff, but maybe something that concerned us about our kids, and we were like, what do you think? That's not the time to have the talk, all right? So if you are up here, there's a great acronym that says WAIT, why am I talking, right? So, and I need to say that to myself a lot. So waiting until you are together, till your head is cleared, until you have a really good plan. And so that might mean sitting down with your husband or your partner and saying, okay, how are we gonna do this? Are we gonna do this together? Are we gonna do this separate? How are we gonna do this? So making sure you are centered and not freaking out, because that's not gonna help. And you're just gonna have an argument with your child. So there's no point to that whatsoever. I will say, obviously if it's an emergency, that's different. Freak out, call 911. But to have the actual talk, you wanna be in a really peaceful place yourself. Excuse me. And if that means, you have our contact information, if you want to talk to one of us, so we can kind of go, absolutely, so we can kind of lead you through it. So you want to make sure that your head is really clear and that you've thought ahead, where are we going to have the talk? Personally, just my experience as a parent, I found the best time I could talk to my children is if I was driving and they were riding in the car, just the two of us. Whatever reason, that seems to turn a kid on. I don't know why that is, but it seems to be. I also would kind of, I do this with my husband, don't tell him. I would also make sure there was a natural ending, because kids can feel trapped. Husbands can feel trapped. So instead of maybe starting the talk as you're driving to someplace that's 2 hours away, wait until you're coming home so that they know there's going to be an exit, because that can make them panic. So just really being very mindful and trying to plan out how you're going to say this. And starting with your child's health and safety. It's kind of, you don't have to prove to them that you know that they're using drugs, right? You don't have to prove it to them. You can start with, I love you, and I'm so worried about you, and this is why I'm worried about you. I've noticed your grades are slipping. I've noticed you don't look at me when we talk anymore. I've noticed, I found this in wherever. Just being very, we're not gonna fight about this. This isn't gonna turn into I'm right and you're wrong. I'm just gonna share with you how I feel. I'm scared for you. Keeping a cool head, obviously speaking calmly, showing love and concern, not anger, and being direct and not abstract, not saying, I'm worried about you, and maybe, and this and that, but very directly. I think either you're having a mental health crisis or maybe you're using drugs. I'm not sure, I don't know. All I know is I'm scared, and we need to figure out a plan. And knowing, I'm gonna stop here for just a second, knowing that you guys can back out. If it starts to go up, back out. Okay, why don't we take a break? Let's talk about this in an hour. Let's talk about this when your dad gets home. That's a bad one. Erase that one, okay? Erase that one. That sounds terrible. But whatever. Let's talk about it tomorrow. A way that they can separate from you for a little bit and breathe. And you can breathe. All right? So don't be afraid to take that break. Withholding judgment. This is not about good and bad people. This is not about good and bad kids or good and bad parents. And sometimes we We absolutely think if I was a good mom, my kid would never use drugs. That's just not true. It's just not true. And if they were a good kid, they wouldn't use drugs. That's not true either. They're a human being. And so withholding that judgment, like I'm going to love you no matter what, and I'm going to think, and I'm going to be proud of who you are as a person no matter what, but we got to talk about this. Do not let your teens stump you with remarks or questions. Oh my gosh, my children should all be lawyers. I'm telling you what. I'm like, that, and they just had something to say back for everything to completely make my head spin, so I couldn't even remember what we were talking about, right? And then thinking, oh, I should never have accused them, right? No. If this starts, the stumping, just, this isn't what we're talking about. We're not talking about whether you have the right to. We're not talking about whether Jimmy does it. I'm talking about you, and I love you. Like trying to just keep coming back to your core message. I love you and I'm worried about you. All right? And again, if they're going to start you spinning in circles, take a break. We'll come back to this. Okay? Focusing, of course, on the behavior, not the person, and making a plan and following through. And I think there's room here for negotiation. I think you can say to them, like, what are you willing to do? And not that you're going to decide. We're going to decide together. But tell me what you're willing to do. Are you willing to talk to a school counselor? Are you willing to go get evaluated? Like, what are you willing to do? And then let's figure that plan out. Obviously, if they are suicidal, there is no negotiation. They have to be evaluated. But if they're not, and so you feel that their mental health that they're not going to hurt themselves, then I think back and forth. Let's figure out a plan together, but something's going to happen. We got to do something, okay? And trying to meet them where they're at, offering to go with them. They probably don't want you to. Then who would you be comfortable with going with you? Do you want your older brother to go? Like, who would be a safe person that would make it easier for you? And maybe having those things in mind, I think I would, if I was, being the mom that I want to be, I would have those things in my hands before I approached my child. I'm not saying that's what I did. I think I came more at them like, ah! But now that you've taken this, now that you've been here, right, you're going to have those pieces in your hand before you go to them. All right, I have CASA-Trinity's number. I have Miss Heather's number. I have, and we'll pick. Let's pick together. Okay, so having that ahead of time so there's not the back and forth, and making it happen as fast as possible. Questions about that? Thoughts about that? Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Was this you or me?
This is you.
All right, so starting the conversation early. So we've talked a lot about tonight what you do when you suspect they are using, and probably from Shawna's room, abusing, possibly selling, most likely.
Shawna definitely is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in Shawna's room.
She's intense, that young lady.
She requires some assistance.
Yes, she does.
Rehab.
Hopefully you guys, and my belief is you guys will never get there, okay? But let's talk about what could you do now? Like, instead of waiting until it's Shawna level, what could you do now? So again, I would encourage you you know your children best. You know where they will listen to you best. You know where you're going to have their attention. I personally think driving is, for whatever weird reason, is the way to go. But so starting having the conversation early, and I know it probably seems like, early would be like 6th grade. I say go earlier. I don't know about you guys, but I've had 1st graders talk to me about vaping. Not that they're vaping, but they know what it is. They want to know.
They have questions.
They have questions, and they worry about their parents, and they worry about their friends. Not friends, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so, even earlier than you think, I think, just opening it up. And obviously you don't open it up with, Lydia, you're in kindergarten, have you used vaping? Of course not. But, have you noticed vaping at school? Do you know what it is? Like, do you have any questions for me? And it can be that brief. It does not have to be this big. In fact, we talked about, is it on there? Short, casual talks work best. Keep it short. And when you see them start to drift off, abort mission, all right? Because you've lost them. So short, casual talks, but frequent, all right?
And I think also, like, when you have the conversation early, it introduces into their minds, like, oh, this is a topic that's okay to talk to my mom or my dad or whoever about. Because I feel like I don't know, like, I would feel kind of uncomfortable talking to my parents about that when I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
But by starting those conversations early, like,
You're
maybe I would be in a
setting
different
the stage.
mindset. Maybe
That's
I'd be like,
right.
oh, like, my mom and I have talked about this a couple times.
It's okay
Maybe I could
to-
ask her a question or something.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely, without her freaking out and going,
Yeah, because
I don't-
if I've never talked to her about it before and I go up to her one day in 10th grade like, what's marijuana? What is that? I feel like she may have freaked out a little bit.
Absolutely, understandably
Yeah.
so. So planning to have more than one conversation and looking for natural ways to bring up the subject. Something I was reading and I don't remember where said you don't have to ask them directly if they've used. Just ask them, do any of your friends use? Not looking for names, or maybe not even friends, maybe even, do you know of anyone in your school who uses? And again, not looking for names, just wondering if you feel it's at your school.
Mm-hmm.
And that then the spotlight is off them, and it's just more of a general question. Have you ever seen anyone vape? So natural ways for it to, maybe a commercial comes on. I mean, I know there's not really commercials anymore, but you know, whatever you see, a billboard or something that kind of brings it up. Okay, and talking to your children about having an exit plan, and they think they have one. I promise you they don't. They think they do. In their head it makes sense that I would just leave. Well, I would just say no. And then they get in there and they're like, so, you know, let's just talk about it anyway. Even if you think you have one, let's go over it. This is what I do. Like if I'm in a situation where everybody's drinking too much, this is how I get out of it. Do you have any other thoughts about that? Like just helping them, you know, click, 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 and maybe even if they'll let you, practicing with them. Having, and maybe you guys do this anyway, we had a code word that my kids could use when they called home if things were uncomfortable for whatever reason. They would ask how our dog Rose was doing. Well, Rose was dead, so she wasn't doing well. So I knew that they never employed it. I'm sure they should have, but they never employed it. But at least they knew what they could say to me. And one thing Lydia and I were talking about the other day, and I would not have thought of this, but I saw it on a training, letting them know ahead of time. If you need to use that code word and I need to come get you, I'm not going to ask you anything till morning. All right, you can come home, you can go to bed, we're not going to fight. Most likely we'll talk about it the next day, but I'm not going to be in your face. Because I think that's part of his, oh man, I don't want to face my mom, my dad, whoever. And we're going to talk about it the next day when we're both okay. And just, you know, letting them know that, see, it's so tricky because, like, looking at you two, my guess is you're there for your kids. You know it, they know it, right? But for some reason, when they're facing this stuff, they don't come to us, you know? And that's not because we're not doing a good job. That's, I don't know, there's just some disconnect there where they don't want to come to us. They don't want to disappoint us, you know? So I think as much as you can dispel that notion, that we can always figure it out together, always. Could there be consequences that you don't like? Right? But we'll figure it out together. And I'm still gonna love you. Even though I know that, you know that, they know that, I think it needs to be said as much as possible to remind them that there's nothing that can happen to them that you guys can't figure out together. And if I don't know the answer, we're gonna find somebody who knows the answer. But I'm with you in it. Tricky conversation. I know you feel that way. It's just a tricky conversation. All right, do you have thoughts about that?
I think you
The old person and the young person. This is so nice, right?
All the knowledge between
Different
us.
perspectives.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
You can. All right. So
All right.
you, me?
I'll do it. So I know we've thrown a lot at you guys today, but we also want to go over some ways to get support. And we did make up a nice resource page that you guys can feel free to take with you. But know that your school is always here to help support you. If you guys ever have any concerns, you guys have some amazing counselors here at Avon that can help you out. All their contact information is on the website, and we also have it on our resource page. Feel free to reach out to them to say, hey, how's Johnny doing? Like, is he doing okay in school? Is he failing math? Like, how's he doing? Oh my God, is one of your kids named Johnny?
No.
Okay.
Our
I was thinking like John
counselors
Doe.
know us personally because we're always
Communicating.
communicating.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
CASA-Trinity. We are always here as a resource. A bunch of our contact info is on that resource sheet. Even like if you're not positive something is going down, if you're just concerned, you can reach out to us and just say, hey, I'm not sure how I should approach this topic. Do you have any tips for me? Maybe can we meet? Can you meet with my child? We will work with you in whatever way that we can to try and support you as best as possible. As always, pediatrician, they are also a good resource. They do like a lot of like confidential like questionnaires with teenagers when they go in for their yearly physical. But maybe if you're having some concerns, you could always bring it up to them. And then there's also a lot of apps and like online support, talk lines, text lines. We've put a bunch of those on our resource page. Especially for the apps, there's a lot of apps that people can use when they're struggling with substance use, whether it's like smoking marijuana, vaping. A lot of support apps that send you like daily texts saying, you're okay, you're gonna get through this, you will beat your cravings, and also things to help measure how you're doing and supporting you through that. So there's a whole bunch of resources. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming. I know this can be a very difficult conversation to talk about, to think about, but please remember we're all here for you. We have a bunch of resources at your fingertips. And then I've put our contact information here if you need it.
I did want to say one more thing, and it's something I saw I was watching a panel of parents whose kids were in active addiction. They were adult children, and the parents were talking. And one of the parents said, it's okay to be wrong. You'd rather be wrong than not say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, right?
Yeah, you'd rather be wrong.
And you've said something.
Yeah,
rather
than be
than
right
not
and not say anything
Exactly,
at all.
exactly. So just to remember that. And you can even say that to your kids. I'd rather be wrong and have this conversation. So, yeah. Thoughts, questions, concerns?
Open it up to the room. Any questions?
Oh my goodness.